My name is Hassan Assad, but I have a few different identities depending on where you know me from. If you're a professional wrestling fan, like millions of people around the world, you might know me as the half-man, half-amazing balling superstar Montel Vontavious Porter, MVP. But I'm also a practitioner of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And last year, I achieved the rank of black belt. And when you achieve the rank of black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, your title isn't sensei, like in karate. Your title is professor. So to my students and my colleagues in the world of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm known as Professor Hassan. And then, a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I was a teenager that made some very bad decisions on the streets of Miami, and I ended up in prison. So if you know me from that era, I'm inmate 190197. We have a general idea in our society of what we consider tough guys to be. Football players, construction workers, soldiers, professional wrestlers, suplexes, body slams, chair shots. You gotta be pretty tough. Martial artists, MMA fighters, grapplers, mental discipline, physical toughness. Generally, we figure that ex-convicts are the kind of people we want to avoid. They can take care of themselves in a bad situation. But we generally have a certain expectation of masculinity, of manly men. Our men have to be strong. They have to be providers, protectors. They're not allowed to show weakness. They're not allowed to be afraid. Which brings me to my reason for being here tonight. About 10, maybe 11 years ago, I was on a flight from Houston to San Francisco. And I was going to wrestle. And on that flight, I was in my seat, and all of a sudden, I got really hot. I started sweating profusely, and my chest got tight. I got short of breath, and I didn't know what was happening. And I asked the gentleman next to me to let me out, so I needed to hide. I didn't want anybody to see me like that. So I went into the lavatory to hide, and that was a bad idea. I got to get out of here. And I went to the galley, and there was a flight attendant, real nice gentleman. He asked me if I was okay. And I said, I think so. And I described to him what I was experiencing, and he said, sounds like you're having a panic attack. A what? Okay, man. As long as it's not a heart attack, I'm okay. Because the symptoms were similar to what I had heard a heart attack was. He offered me a glass of water. I accepted it, and the feeling subsided. I went, I took my seat. I was okay. Some time went by. Some time later, I was at home, sitting on my bed. My son, he was standing in front of the television, and he was singing and dancing, watching Moana. He had his little Maui hook, and it's okay anyway, you're welcome. He was having a great time. But it happened again. The tight chest, the shortness of breath, the dizziness, the sweating. But this time there was something a little bit different. This time, I realized in that moment that my son, my 3-year-old son, I was his age the first time that I was sexually abused by a family friend. And I grabbed my little boy, and I held him, and I was squeezing him and kissing him, and he was just giggling and laughing because he thought Daddy was playing, but he didn't realize it. In that moment, I needed him. And the feeling subsided, and I was okay. And you know what I did about it? Absolutely nothing, because that's what men do. Suck it up, man. You're okay. You're fine. It's all in your head. You'll be all right. Some more time passed, and I had a few more of these things here and there. But one night, I was at home, and I decided I would treat myself to a nice bong rip. And usually after that, I'm feeling great. I'm relaxed. I'm good. The worst thing that's going to happen is I might kill a bag of Doritos or something. But not this night. This night, the symptoms came back. And they were worse than ever before, more intense. So intense that I thought, wait a minute, this time I might really be having a heart attack. I don't know how many of you remember Sanford and Son. Elizabeth, the big one, this is it. But I said, okay, this time I'm going to drive myself to the urgent care, but I'm going to make a deal. I have my insurance card in hand, and if I'm really having a heart attack, then I'll stagger inside and I'll drop and somebody will find me and I'll get the care that I need. But if not, then like every time before, they'll subside and I'll be okay. And that's exactly what happened. And you know what I did about it this time? I did what any self-respecting tough guy would do. I watched The Sopranos because Tony Soprano was having anxiety attacks to the point that he was passing out. I remember that. So I said, let me go back and watch that from season 1 all the way through. And I watched him interact with his therapist, and I thought, nah, man, I'm good on that. But then it happened again. And this one was different from the others. This one was so bad that I was trembling. I drove myself to the urgent care, and I was trembling to the point that I couldn't pull my ID out of my wallet. I couldn't. And this time, something different happened. This time, I started sobbing uncontrollably. And I was scared because I didn't know what was happening to me. Like, what's going on? I'm not in control. What is this? And I felt so bad that I said, I'll be right back. And I ran outside, and I found a place in the parking lot to hide because I didn't want anybody to see me like that. I'm on TV every week. I'm MVP. What if somebody said, yo, I saw MVP in the waiting room of an urgent care crying like a bitch? Nah, man, not me. Man the fuck up. Get it together. You're going to be all right. And I went back inside. I was admitted, and this wonderful woman, she spoke to me in such a soothing voice, and she calmed me down, and she urged me to see a mental health care specialist. Like, man, really? But I was tired of dealing with this, and I felt, okay, it's time for me to do something different. I work for a wrestling company called All Elite Wrestling, AEW. And our boss, Tony Khan, he's a really good guy to work for, so much so that he has a full-time staff of mental health care specialists. And I went to Chris Manzioni, our sports psychologist, and I said, Chris, I want to talk to you, but not here. I don't want anybody to see me talking to you. And he was cool enough that he came to my hotel room and he sat with me for the better part of an hour. And he said, tell me about your life. And I recounted the sexual abuse as a child, the physical abuse. I had one of those. My mom worked a full-time job, a part-time job, and took classes, single mom, to get her 3 boys up out of the poverty that we were in. But man, she was stressed. And when she got hot, you got hit with whatever was in reach. I got beat with a Tonka truck one time. I'm not even joking. And sometimes, in my mother's frustration, she would say to me, you no good for nothing, rotten son of a bitchin' kid. Like, I'm only 9. Am I really that bad? And then later on, we lived in a black neighborhood, but I went to school in a middle-class white neighborhood. I was not white enough for the white kids and certainly not black enough for the black kids, and I got beat up a lot. And I learned how to fight by getting beat up. And eventually, I decided that I don't want to be soft anymore. So I'm going to overcompensate the other way, and I became a gang member. And things escalated quickly, from just gang fights to stolen cars and armed robbery and shootouts and high-speed chases with the police. And then I found myself in prison. 17 years old, maximum security prison. And I learned very quickly that I had to adjust my whole mentality if you don't want to be prey in a room full of predators. And when I got out of prison, I was a convicted felon. I couldn't get hired anywhere. So I became a bouncer. And I've been in a lot of barroom brawls, a lot of nightclub brawls. Violence has just been a regular part of my life. And Chris Manzioni said to me, we all have a reservoir for trauma. And like a dam, you have to release some of that water, or it will find a way out. He said, you, my friend, have a Hoover Dam-sized reservoir. Nearly 50 years of unaddressed trauma. So he was cool enough to recommend a mental health care specialist here in Houston. And I made the leap, and I said, okay, I'll do it. And I learned a few things. One of the things I learned is that men are 4 times more likely than women to take their own lives. 36,000 men a year take their own lives. A friend of mine, fellow professional wrestler, combat veteran, Afghanistan, I asked him about it one time, and he said, I don't like to talk about it. I respect it, man. And I thought about all of the veterans that have taken their lives, all of these men that have taken their lives. Would they still be here if they talked to someone? See, because we can't be weak. We can't show weakness. We have to be strong. We're not allowed to be weak. But what I learned is that a real man will ask for help. Because the biggest fight sometimes is the fight within. It's the hardest thing to overcome. And I've decided that I'm tired of feeling bad. And I learned that you have to take that step. And I'm hoping that by me putting myself out here tonight, there will be some men that watch this and go, hey, MVP goes through that too? I have a few friends, some rappers, tough dudes, came up in the streets, Harlem, and I got comfortable enough to talk about it. And I said, hey, man, I deal with this sometimes. He goes, you too? Oh, man, for real? I said, yeah, man. He goes, yeah, man, me too, man. I got some friends that are MMA fighters, like killers, like the definition of tough guys. And one of them, I talked to him, and I said, yeah, man, I started going to therapy. I was having these panic attacks. And he goes, MVP? You? He goes, dude, yeah, me too, man. I just don't want to talk about it. It's okay, man. It doesn't make you any less of a man to ask for help. We all need a little help sometimes. So I decided to get help because I wanted to feel better. I wanted to be a better man for me, a better man for my son, a better man for the people that I love and the people that love me. And you, whoever you are, if you're listening to this, talk to somebody. Get some help. It doesn't make you any less of a man. A real man will confront that fight. And then you can be a better man for you, for the people that you love, and the people that love you. My name is Hassan Assad. Thank you very much.